Good morning. In behalf of my colleagues Cyndi, Argelia, Cardoso, Ramírez, and Vilma, Zoraida del Carmen, Rodríguez, Melchor, I'm very happy to introduce this topic, motivating and innovative tips from neurodidactics to English language teaching. So, to start with, I will explain a little bit about English language teaching. English language teachers nowadays are asked to know about methods and language teaching. A long time ago, it was only necessary to speak the language and go and teach the language. Greet students, say good morning, I'm your teacher, and I'm going to practice with you uh, some phrases, or we're going to translate. Nowadays, it is not that easy. Teachers need to handle many methods, to know many strategies, and to get some knowledge about how to teach and how to motivate students. Some of the main methods that were created during the 20th century were related to uh, using only the language that is going to be taught, that is a target language, using some situations in the language teaching, using dialogues, and having the teacher as a silent tool for students to produce more, and some other inductive methods and much more motivated methods for students, such as the Suggestopedia and community language learning. There was a very popular approach that was born in the 80s, 1980s. That was a communicative approach, and we have some principles that are still used. I have to say that most of the methods are still used nowadays for teaching not only English but most of uh, most of the languages. The direct method, after the translation method, was born in the 1872 year, and it was also called the neutral approach, and it emphasizes speaking and listening. The reading approach was born in the 1930, in 1930, and it was about reading text and having comprehension activities around the text. The lingual method was born uh, due to the fact that there was a World War II, and soldiers had to speak, and people had to speak English very quickly. The silent wait was a response to the previous one, and it was about speaking. Suggestopedia was based on context and reading. People had to read and know about grammar and music and noticeable aspects of a language, with emphasis on the context and the storytelling. TPR, that is total physical response, was a method that was about listening and reading, listening to the teacher and acting out with the body what the teacher was saying. The language that is the language approaches that are being used nowadays are referred to communication and to student centeredness. And due to that fact, we need to pay attention to what students think and what students say and how students feel. This take us to think of how people think and how people feel. Students develop their emotions in their brain, but there are many activities that we can do in the classroom to um, benefit that sense of control of emotions. When we play activities such as games in the class, there's a part of the brain that is the hypothalamus, and that works with emotions. We can have activities that activate the heart and the rhythm of a heart. We can have activities that can promote the production of serotonin and endorphins. We can have activities that motivate memory. So that's why we are talking about those type of activities and even food that we can intake in order to improve our learning. So how does it work? It is not only knowing about methods, it is also knowing about how the brain works and how we the teachers can work on the on that. How we teachers improve learning. So we have this idea in our head: how language classes improve the cognition and the work of our brain. When we promote vocabulary, we are working with the Broca area, and we are like fortifying the Broca area by playing activities related to vocabulary. When we are playing with grammar and when we are teaching grammar, we are also working with the to fortify the Broca area. When we're doing the phonological um, exercises that we have in the class, we're also fortifying the Broca area. What happens with the other areas? Okay, if you look at this brain, you can see that the brain is connected to different skills. One of the things is that if we work with language, we will fortify this area that says speech. If we work with visual aids, we will fortify memory, vision, emotion, and speech. If students move, we will fortify this area that says basic movements, skill, and speech. If students touch, they will fortify this area that says sensation, but also emotion. So what is the demand now for teachers? Teachers need to implement activities for students to have sensations, emotions, practice the language, speech, and have a balance between all these activities. So neurolinguistics and neurosciences are concerned about how to improve memory. And what do students say about this? I remember what I learned, if what I learned is something meaningful. What do students say when there's motivation? I want to learn. I don't care who motivates me, but I want to learn because what I learn is something interesting. So interesting topics. What do students say? Okay, I if I eat well, I'm gonna learn better. But sometimes they don't even know what to eat in order to learn better. What is meaningful learning? It's something that is practical for students' life. And if we get, as I told you, some movement in the class, students are gonna learn involving their body. If examples are personalized and you take the name of the students in the examples, or you take part of students' lives in the examples, they're gonna be considering that the class is part of their life, and they are part of a class, and so forth. Uh, we also have humanistic activities as part of the neurosciences, as part of the neurodidactics. And humanistic activities help students become better people. In general, they share their feelings and they improve their memory with humanistic activities. So we'll continue with the next idea. What do students do to improve their memory? Okay, they can work the short term memory if you implement in your classes not only ideas, but you play with numbers, you show them faces, you ask students to do planning, and you ask them to take decisions. That type of memory activities uh, is facilitating the work memory. What is the work memory about? Is a short-term memory that students need to remember numbers, telephone numbers, what they're going to do in their agenda, and possible decisions they can take. But if we implement this type of activities too that involve numbers, faces, ideas, and decisions, they're going to improve their work memory. There's another type of memory called sensorial memory, this memory. And this memory works with the senses. It has to do with the exposition to students to touching, feeling, breathing, like seeing, and it is also a short-term memory. What can we do as teachers to help students have a good memory? Okay, number one, we can talk we can talk about emotions in the class. We can engage the senses. We can ask students to associate pictures and phrases. We can students to recall from the beginning of a class until the end of a class all the words that we've been teaching. We ask them to use sensory cues, and we ask them to meditate. Meditation also can take place in the classroom. We can ask students to keep a record, to write whatever they consider necessary or meaningful. And they can even have as homework, take this, uh, practice this 20 times and do something with it. Sleep with the idea that you have a list of verbs in front of you that were meaningful. So take them to the bed and do something with them. So you can even dream with them. For long-term memory, it is okay to remind students an episode of their childhood. They will practice a long-term memory if they talk about childhood, if they describe how devices operate, if they describe how they can drive a car or talk about procedures such as recipes. And they can also improve this kind of memory if they are doing some maths in English, because they have to go back to a long time ago, and they're learning and everything to recall all that information. So that is the kind of activities we can do with students in order to work with the long-term memory. How can we motivate our students? We need to set goals in our class. We need to have supportive peers. We need to have a friendly environment. We need to know what to teach and what to do. We need to challenge them. We need to tell them you can do it. We need to give them opportunities to speak, opportunities to participate, and we need to encourage them and praise them, saying, "Well done." It doesn't matter if you made mistakes, but do it. How can we motivate students? By including interesting topics, by using a variety of methods, not only the traditional grammar translation, not only the direct method, not only TPR, not only Suggestipedia, but having eclectic procedures for teaching, materials that are varied, and also using technology, using apps, using videos, using handmade material. We can motivate students by having stories with personalized characters. We can have practical examples such as asking for food in a restaurant, asking for directions. We can motivate students by playing games and giving them rewards and praise them all the time, most of the time, or as much as possible. And if we focus on their mistakes or language mistakes, we will demotivate them. We won't really motivate them. Probably they may want correction, but not really. They don't want to be exposed to a correction all the time. Even when it is necessary, we need to be very, very, very nice to students. We need to have a real life context linkage always. real life. This language, this phrase, this vocabulary is related to real life context. And we need to have emotionally positive environments, always positive environments. Okay, we'll continue with the presentation and some more tips talking about the neurotransmitters. Probably we don't know as teachers the value of having the right uh, the right food for our body and for our brain. We know we need to drink milk, but what for? We need to drink milk, cheese, and yogurt to get happiness, to lower depression. How can we also get this into class without drinking milk and cheese? Well, by playing games. Another neurotransmitter that is produced by eating chicken, milk, fish, eggs, cabbage, nuts, peanuts is serotonin. Dopamine has to do with happiness, but serotonin has to do with relaxation, sleep, and lowering the anxiety. We can do some walking under the sun, and that will also produce happiness. So it is okay if students go out of a classroom and do some walking around the classroom, and they are invited to eat this food. Oxytocin is also another neurotransmitter that is called the love hormone. We find it in fish, mushroom, peppers, tomatoes, and spinach. This neurotransmitter regulates emotions. So imagine if there's a lack of oxytocin in our body. Noradrenaline is a neurotransmitter that is connected to fears. If it is very high, there's a lot of fears. If it is very low, it happens the same. So what do we need to do in order to balance it? We need to do exercise, sleep, and have some feeling of accomplishment. That's why we need praising, or we need to praise our students. Adrenaline is about fears and defensive attitudes. So those students who are always thinking that the teacher is against them and they don't want to participate, they may need to increase their adrenaline. How can they do that? By playing games, by receiving some praising, and besides that, they can eat fish, eggs, legumes, nuts, lettuce, colorful vegetables, and grains. Glutamate is another neurotransmitter that is also important for our students and for our brain in general. We can get it by eating cheese, hams, nuts, peas, tomatoes, mushroom meat, and chicken. GABA is a neurotransmitter that is very important for learning and for concentration. So this neurotransmitter can be obtained with meat, cheese, and mushrooms. Acetylcholine is obtained by eating eggs, cow liver, nuts, and by doing meditation. Why do we talk about this? Because sometimes we don't know how to promote the improvement of neurotransmitters, and all these are involved in learning. If students are sleepy, they need to improve their level of oxytocin. If students are they are really stressed when they participate, probably that class you need to implement listening to music and do some more praising for students and so forth. So it is important to know all this. Another tip for having meaningful learning is contextualizing the learning. What do we mean by contextualizing the learning? What is practical in the life of students is something that is going to be meaningful for them. So we need to pay attention to their interest, to the way they're going to use the language, and to use authentic situations. There's a method that is called the React method that has to do with relating the content of our classes to what is going to be learned. Ask students to experience activities and experience games and experience the sentences and experience the vocabulary. As applying, we ask students to apply the language and the knowledge in the class in a very practical way, in situations, in games, cooperating, and that is the next issue, cooperating. So English language learning doesn't take place by itself, isolation. Students have to solve problems together, and students have to take what they learn and apply it into a new context or situation. That's why we need to have real life situations in the classroom. This is meaningful learning, applying, actively involving students in their learning process, and having a combination of what we teach and what students know. So we need to relate what we teach to what students know and to their lives. How are we going to work with contextualization? Well, contextualization is about focusing on the language, supporting the language with active um, examples. We can create new examples based on students' likes and identity. We can facilitate cultural knowledge by associating the new knowledge to cultures and to experiences students may have in the future. We can associate the new language to the examples in the book and real life situation examples. And we can also contextualize when students are asked to work in teams and associate their knowledge to the knowledge of their classmates and they work together. There's another tip for improving students' learning using neurodidactics. This tip is called movement. There is a theory that is called the motion sensing technology, in which the body is involved. A long time ago, it used to be total physical response, the method. Now it is called the embodied based TPR approach. And it is like exposing students to connect Xbox. Probably you played with that. And you have to move your body according to some commands from the teacher. But those commands are constantly repeated and in a context that is very meaningful for students. So the learning takes place because it is not repetitive but meaningful. The other tip is use humanistic activities. Humanism focuses on helping people live well, live better. Humanism focuses on helping people achieve personal growth, and humanism focuses on helping people make the world a better place. So that sounds like a song, but it is not a song. It is an approach that helps students learn better. How are going to our students to learn better? If the learning if the learning is student centered, if we take into account their emotions, their likes, and there's cooperation among the students. If students feel the others don't participate and they don't want to help and don't care about their emotions, then students don't learn as much as when they are um, asked to do that. These are some tips that we really recommend. We recommend playing with the memory, playing with motivation, taking into account neurotransmitters, having meaningful learning, and having contextualized learning, movement, humanistic activities. That's what we recommend. Diana La Luz, Vilma, Zoraida Rodríguez, and Cyndi Cardoso. Thank you very much. And there are some references for you to continue with this. This is our presentation, and we want to thank you for being here today listening to these tips. Thank you very much, and I'll see you later.